Have you ever seen Japanese education propaganda? Well, look no further than Proof of Us, the anime commercial. This is a 5-minute short / commercial where basically the whole message of it is to encourage children to study hard in school. Hey, telling kids to study hard in school is not a bad thing, but I think conflating the fact that, hey, if you study hard in school, you might have a romantic relationship is just the funniest thing to me, because we know in Japan that they are having birth rate issues, and we also know that students are severely overworked in Japan. A study showed that 39% of university students in Japan are suffering from severe mental illness, and the anime being a basically propaganda piece telling kids, hey guys, study hard in school, that person who you have a crush on will love you and they'll come after you and they'll change schools just to go to school with you. And look, honestly, the anime itself is very wholesome, it's very sweet, it's animated by Flat Studio, it is done very well. There is a music track in the background for the duration of the 4 minutes 54 seconds, I believe, is how long this is, and it's a very, very good song. And the animation quality itself, really good, top notch. It's got this very cool style. It's a little bit washed out at points, but also I feel like the washing out of the colors reflects the mental state of the characters, which actually is a very positive aspect of this, because it doesn't present school as this very, it's great all the time, but also it doesn't really show how much these students truly struggle in Japan, because again, my knowledge is from research. I tried to get some statistics, but Statista wanted me to pay for Statista Pro, and I can't afford that. But if you want me to afford Statista Pro, you should like and subscribe to the channel, so then I can eventually get to affording Statista Pro, huh? But plug aside, the show, well, it's not even a show, the commercial doesn't really show a huge struggle. It shows them struggling with the subjects, but it doesn't really show these kids like going through the proper trials and tribulations that you see in school everywhere, maybe particularly in Japanese school because of the long hours, the need to go to clubs after school, and then also some people, or a good chunk of people, go to cram school as well. It's not really showing that in this, and I don't want to be a Debbie Downer for this entire video, but it just felt like it was lacking that little bit of realism. And I get it, because it's a commercial to encourage children to study hard in school and do well in school and get an education. And I am not saying that's a bad thing. Hey, I wish I listened more, I studied harder in school as well. This maybe would have worked on me as propaganda, to be honest, but it is a little bit strange that you're using an anime for the propaganda to keep kids in school, when maybe the best solution is to reduce the number of hours the children need to be studying, reduce the strictness of exams to get into higher universities, reduce the stigma against people who don't go to the top universities in Japan, and help the kids with their mental health. Maybe that would help them enjoy studying a little bit more, as opposed to giving them a pretty nice anime, a pretty nice piece of education propaganda, I'll give you that. Talking more about the actual structure of the anime itself though, there is one thing I did have a problem with, and it was the editing. I know they only had under 5 minutes for this, but the editing was way too fast. It was going from scene to scene to scene. There were characters being introduced, and there was one character who I thought was the main male protagonist, and I was like, that's the same character, right? And then I think by the end, I watched it twice. I was like, I think that's a different person, but I am not 100% sure. But then at the end, I think they made it clear they were a different person, but I don't really know if they were a different person or they were the figment of the female protagonist's imagination, and I'm not too sure with that. And that was my main gripe with this, other than the message being like, hey kids, if you study hard, all your problems will be done. You'll get that girl or you'll get that boy. Don't worry about it, guys. There's nothing else to do it. But it genuinely felt like the story was very much this, yeah guys, study hard, have kids, and we know Spy Family is jokingly referred to as Shinzo Abe's final legacy of have kids reproduce. And this kind of felt like that version, but for an education. But like I said, the editing, a little bit too fast. The color grading, well, it's not even color grading, it's an anime. The color choice I liked. I think maybe if the editing was a little bit slower so I could really appreciate some of the color choices, because some of the scenes, they had this drained feeling to them, but it very quickly went to it being a little bit brighter, and I like the contrast, but I couldn't really appreciate the color difference because it was cutting so fast. And I get that because, like I said earlier, it is a 5-minute short / commercial, so you don't really have time to linger on a shot, do you, unless it's a very important shot. And the final shot, actually, it does linger a little bit, and it's quite cute, and it is very much something that I feel like some fans would ship the characters. I mean, it's very obvious they're maybe getting together. The other thing that's a little bit confusing is the time scale and time frame, but that also might be because I'm not in Japan, so that might be a cultural thing that I'm missing. I feel like it follows the characters from elementary school up until maybe university. I'm pretty sure it follows them up until university, but because of things like outfit choice, like some of the characters aren't actually wearing school uniforms when the rest of them are. So I think maybe that's a cultural thing I'm a little bit confused by. And I did a little bit of research into it, but because it's a commercial, it's kind of difficult to find much more than the Mal post on it. And I think there was one Reddit thread, but the Reddit thread didn't really go into deep detail on that. So I'm a little bit confused by the timescale, but again, that might be a cultural thing. But I would go into it with the assumption that it follows these students from elementary school to university entrance. So actually being able to cover that amount of time and tell a cohesive story in 5 minutes is impressive. I just feel like if you're going to tell this story, if you're really doing it from an artistic standpoint, you would properly dive into the problems that these characters have. But at the end of the day, this is a propaganda piece to get kids to study hard in school, so I can't really question it all too much for not being, the most compelling narrative in 5 minutes. But yeah, I thought I'd talk to you guys about that Japanese propaganda piece to keep kids in school and maybe use it to influence them to have relationships, because, they desperately need it. But like I said, maybe the main focus should be helping those students with that 39% of students struggling with their mental health. I think that would drastically improve kids wanting to go to have an education as opposed to an anime, but what do I know? I'm not in the government yet. So thank you for watching. Let me know in the comments down below if you've seen this anime commercial. Is there any shorts you want me to watch and make a video about? I quite like doing that. I'll be honest, I've yapped for more than the duration of the short itself, so go and watch the short. I'll link it down below. Thanks for watching. Bye.